Okay, I make it 9:02, so I think we're going to get going. It may well be that there are a few people who join us belatedly, but I'm conscious that you've all your time is precious and that you've got a day of work ahead of you. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us this morning. My name's Emma Bell. I'm the Executive Director of Innovations for Learning. For those of you who are our first one of these training sessions last week, you saw me talk about breaking the ice with your pupil. And today we're delighted to be introducing our second session in the series, which is how to make best use of the TutorMate platform. As you can probably see in the kind of spotlighted zone by the slide, I have two colleagues with me today, Anna Ansted, who can perhaps give us a wave. Anna is going to actually be leading today's session. She's a volunteer herself. She's also our corporate partnerships manager and spends a lot of time talking to people about the programme and encouraging them to get involved, and therefore knows the platform very well. So she's going to be giving you a little bit of a live demonstration today of how things work. Also with us is my colleague Becky, who helps us with our communications here at Innovations for Learning. And Becky is going to be fielding the questions that you might have on what Anna is showing us. So the idea today is that Anna will take us through various elements of the platform, and then she'll pause at various points and give you an opportunity to unmute yourselves and ask a question. What we would ask is if you could put your question or an indication that you want to ask one in the chat, that would be very helpful. So Becky can then come to you, give you an opportunity to ask your question. If you're somewhere, of course, where you're not really able to speak, she can then read the question out for you. So that's how we're going to run things this morning. Before we get started, there are just a few little housekeeping things to be aware of. We are recording this call so that we can then share it afterwards with people who haven't been able to get here. While the Anna's doing her demonstration, please do keep yourself muted and only unmute yourself if you're going to ask a question. If you need to leave us at 9:30, then of course that's fine. Based on feedback from our session last week, we are going to run the session and be available for questions until 9:40, because we were conscious that perhaps things ended a little bit earlier than people would have liked last week. They didn't get a chance to interact with us as much as they were keen to do. So we will be here until 9:40 to make sure you have an opportunity to ask us questions. Again, we'll be sending out an email afterwards with the recording and any additional resources that you might find useful. The other thing we're also going to do towards the end of the call is just post a little survey in the chat to get your feedback on how the session's gone today. That's really helpful because we've already got lots of really useful information about different types of sessions that you'd like to have in the future. So any information you can give us about what would be helpful for you as you embark on your volunteering experience this year is always really useful to you and then other volunteers as well. So thank you very much. And without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Anna, who is going to take us through how to make best use of the TutorMate platform.
Thank you very much, Emma. That's lovely. Welcome. I'm really delighted to be speaking with you all this morning, and I'm going to start, and we're just going to run through a few points as to what I'm going to cover over in the session, and then we're going to move straight over and get up the TutorMate platform and do a bit of a live demo, and then we can take some questions throughout the session. So I'm really delighted to be working with so many of our lovely corporate partners, and I'm also volunteering with a little girl myself to help her with her reading, which is going really well. So today we're going to talk about scheduling your first session. Hopefully some of you probably have already started, and what you need to do if you need to change a session. And then we'll talk a little bit if you're absent or a child's absent, or if you're on holiday. Then we'll talk a little bit about how to structure a session, some different ideas how to structure a session, what works best for your child as well. And then obviously it's really important when the children are reading that they've got a good understanding of what they're reading and a good comprehension of what they're reading. So we'll talk about different questions that you can ask the children as they're reading. You hopefully will have noticed that at the end of every session, we have our feedback forms, and they're just really important if you're always able to fill those out for us. So we'll run through that. And then on the platform, there is the option to message a teacher, and you can also message our help support team at the same time if you need to. And then, of course, we've got a wealth of knowledge in our knowledge base, which has got a lot of different videos in. It's also got an FAQ section. So we will touch on that as well. So I'm going to just stop this share now, Emma, and then I'm going to bring up the main platform. Can I just ask, that's okay? Can everyone see that?
Yeah, we can see it perfectly, Anna. Thank you.
There we go. Brilliant. Okay, so when you log on to the TutorMate platform, this is your general welcome screen. So you can see I've actually got my next session booked in for tomorrow with a little girl called Harper. So this is what you'll see when you log in. And then when you are starting your classroom session, I'm not going to do it now because obviously we're doing the demo, but you would click this blue button here where it says start classroom session, and that will generate the telephone number. And once you ring that number on your mobile, you'll then have a greeter in the classroom ask who is it that you need, and they will then get the child that you need, and then the button will turn green. It will say pupil available, and then you're ready to start your session. Of course, if there is any problems at all, we have our wonderful support agent chat support down in this bottom corner here. So if you can press on that orange button at any time, if you're having any troubles connecting, there is a live person at the end. I think today there's lovely Jordan there, and it will answer any questions if you've got any trouble connecting to the classroom. And again, as you go through the session, if you experience any technical difficulties, the chat support is there for us. So if we just move on to and just to say as well, when you start your session, you will receive generally in the morning, if the teacher, in most cases, the teacher will check that your student's present, or if they're not in school, and you'll receive an email to say, or receive a message via the platform to say that your student is in class today, so your session can go ahead. And if they're absent from school, again, the teacher will have checked that, and so you should again receive a message to say that your child is absent, so not to do your session that day. So if we just move on to start scheduling a classroom session. Now, some of you will have, I'm sure, already done this. To schedule, you can see the parts that are blacked out are when the classroom's not available. So you're looking for a clear half-an-hour slot. So if I clicked into Thursday, I can put the time in there, the end time. If I wanted to, I can actually change that. In that slot, there's only one slot there, so you can, if you then can click on there to say repeat weekly, and then you'd save that, and then you've got your session saved every week on Thursday at 1 o'clock. I've had to move mine quite a few occasions because I've had different meetings come up. You can go in and you can easily drag your meeting to a different time, and you can even do them at 1/4 past the hour as well. So you just press update events. So it's very easy to pick it up and move your session for that week, and it will ask you whether you want to update it just for that week or on a recurring basis. Now, we are sort of not that far away from the Christmas holidays, so I think they've only got a couple more weeks. I'm sure your kids are on my children are certainly on countdown at the moment. But if you need to find out when your school breaks up, in the calendar itself, it hasn't got the Christmas holidays blacked out, but you will get a message to say when closer to the time that the school won't be open for those following weeks. but we've also got a view school calendar button. So if you click on your area in the UK, you've got all the term times dates there, and so then you can find out when the school holidays are if you want to plan in advance for those, but you will get a message come up through the platform. One of the questions we get asked quite a lot, obviously, if the child is absent, you obviously can't do that session that week. My little girl was off, so I actually managed to do 2 sessions with her the following week, but that's completely up to you. We know you're very, very busy. So if you are able to do that, that's obviously lovely, but otherwise just go in for your next session the following week. And then if you're on holiday as well, obviously that's absolutely fine. It would just quite nice if you could tell the child the week before to say that you're not going to be there that week because you're away. And again, you may be able to do 2 sessions when you come back. But also what is nice, that if you just use the messaging function in the platform to let the teacher know that you're not going to be there that week, and if it's going to be extended absence, say and you can also copy in our TutorMate support team as well, just to let them know that you're not going to be there. And that's really, really important, particularly if you're away for more than 2 weeks, that you could let our TutorMate support team know, and obviously the teacher. And in some cases, you may be able to speak to our support team. They might be able to find someone to cover your sessions from within your organisation as well. So yeah, I think that's everything on scheduling a classroom session. So I don't know if we've got anything you want to add, Emma, or if we've got any questions.
Yes, we do have a question from Eve. Eve, would you like to ask the question yourself? Otherwise, I'll shoot it for you. You might have to unmute yourself. Okay, Eve's audio is not working. So Eve has actually tried to schedule 2 sessions in 1 week after discussion with the teacher, but she found that she was getting an error message if it was, for example, 2 days apart. So is there a restriction on how close together sessions can be, Anna?
I can jump in there actually, Becky. Eve, there ought not to be a restriction. So most people are able to schedule sessions 1 or 2 days apart, and sometimes even on the same day. So if you run into problems with that, I think it's probably something that we should look into. So if you don't mind dropping our support team an email, we can just investigate whether there's some kind of issue with your account that's somehow preventing that from happening. But thank you very much for bringing it up, because it ought not to be the case. You ought to be able to schedule your sessions almost as many as you want in a week. Actually, we've had some volunteers who've been incredibly enthusiastic and, you know, tutored someone 3 times in a week on occasion. So yeah, we can definitely make the functionality work for you, I hope. The only thing that I was perhaps going to mention was just to emphasize what Anna had said about the recurring slots. So just to remember that if you put in a repeating time, that's fantastic for consistency. So it's helpful for you and your diary to be able to remember, you know, that you've got a dedicated time each week that you're going to be reading with your child. But it's also quite nice for the children if you're able to establish that routine. So it's, you know, a great thing to do if you can. Obviously, if your diary and your work schedule means that you can only schedule things week by week, that's fine as well. But it's nice for children sometimes to get into that habit. And we get lots of feedback from teachers who say that children very quickly get to know that, you know, Tuesday's their special day and they get very excited when you're about to ring. So it's nice to have that routine if at all possible. Anna, I'll hand back to you because in case there are any more questions or whether we're going to move on.
Emma, Eve is just then also asking when on holiday, which support email address.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the UK support email, Eve. So just in general, as Anna said, we do, as some of you may know, do quite consistent follow-up of volunteers who we've noticed have sort of gone missing and haven't been able to ring for a while. And we do that partly to make sure that you don't have any technical problems that we want to help you address, but also because we, you know, are conscious that there is a child who is waiting for your calls. And if you haven't been able to ring, we'd like to understand, you know, a little bit more about that. we normally start following people up after about 2 weeks. So based on the recognition that you will have holiday, and that may be a 2-week break. So if you are going to be out for longer than 2 weeks, to avoid us chasing you, that's where letting the support team know is really valuable. So it's that UK support email that you will receive, relative, good number of communications from that team anyway. So just reply to one of those. And as Anna mentioned, she'll show you later how you can use the platform to be in touch with the support team as well.
Okay, thanks, Emma. So I've just clicked onto the practice tutoring module. So everybody's got this on the platform. So you can go after this and have a play around on your own function. I'm on my own TutorMate account. So everyone's got access to this. So when you come on to the practice tutoring and when you sign on and you're actually doing your live session, the little bunny screen down in the left-hand corner is what the children will see. Or should be seeing. So it's quite a good way of checking that they can see what they should be seeing. So if you say to them, can you see the bunny? We're all good to go. And again, if they're not seeing the bunny, then please reach out to the chat support team in the right hand corner there, and have a chat with them, because they can link straight into the computer and sort any problems out. To get that screen up, you just press the little rectangle screen, which gets the child's screen up for you there. When you come into the session, it will put in what level the child has been set at by the teacher. So that will be, at the moment, my child's on magenta. And then we would say, if they haven't moved up after 30 days, you will get a note coming up that you may want to move them up a level. But what we'll do is we'll start off, when I start off a session with my child, I like to start off with the flashcards as a bit of a warm-up. So sort of maybe 5 or so minutes doing some flashcards. And that's very easy to bring up. I'll show you the magenta ones. And then they come through with different phonic sounds for the children to practice. So I may choose 4 or 5 different words for her to practice, and they'll sound those out using their phonic sounds. You can sort of tick to say whether the child's right, but they don't see that. That's just for your own note. So I'd work through some different phonic sounds there. You can also message your pupil and say, well done, and that will get delivered by a little owl. So they also like that, and obviously reward them and talk to them about what they're doing, how well they're using their phonic sounds, and say what that you're sort of impressed with. And we've got some stickers as well down the bottom that you can share maybe at the end of your flashcard section, and they sort of come up, which is lovely. You've got up here there's some session notes. So you might want to make a note of what's worked well for or what they need to practice for next week, and you can keep your session notes and add to them. They're not seen by the teacher or anyone, it's just for your own reference. So if I go back and just change the reading level, just so you can see the next level up, which is red, and they start having some different words that the children can practice. So some of their sight words or sort of tricky words that they can practice here, and exactly the same, you pull them up for the child. And then just to note as well, next to the sight words, you've also got word practice as well. So these words are a little bit longer. So where my child has just going up from magenta to red, I've chosen some that are just sort of 4 letters that are easier for her to read to start with, and then each week we'll sort of keep adding to those. So yeah, we'd start off the session doing some flashcards, and then we would move to the stories. And again, we'll go into the reading level that she has been set. And we'd have a chat about the different titles, which ones look good, which ones she's interested in, or maybe she's been talking about something. I think the first week she'd already told me that she'd like the Sandpit. We chose that book. And yeah, so it's quite a nice time to actually discuss the stories as well. So once you've chosen your story together, and talk a little bit about the pictures, which is quite nice. See to her what she thinks is going to happen perhaps in the book as well. And then as you're reading the book, as she's reading the book together, you can highlight the words to help them there. And then maybe if you need to message them to sort of space out, you know, if she's struggling with the word sun, you can send it via the owl broken down. And then maybe talk about the pictures, what she can see in the pictures, how does she think the children are feeling, has she got a paddling pool? And yeah, so really creating a really nice dialogue as you're talking and reading through the text. So ask them what's happening in the photos, how does the little boy feel? And then obviously as well, you can talk about what you think is going to happen next in the photo, in the book, and just, you know, create a really nice story and dialogue between you. And then at the end, you can ask what particular things they enjoyed about the book. And you know, some books you can do some counting, look at colours as well in the pictures, as well as obviously them reading and practicing their phonic sounds. So really installing that love of books through the platform. My child, so once you've started with your flashcards, you can then read your story. My child sort of after the story is quite keen to play a game. So we've been playing a little game after the story and then going back and reading a second story. The first couple of weeks we had 5 minutes on flashcards, and then we read 2 stories, and then we did the games at the end. So it really sort of work with your child as to what works well. And, you know, maybe if they're not at a level of reading 2 stories, you can read a story to them, choose maybe one from one of the higher levels. And then I will just, on the games that we've got, there are 4 games there. In each one, there are the directions on how to play the game. So we've got mystery words, so you can go in, they're all pretty self-explanatory. Sometimes I'd choose I'd choose a word from the story, so I'd choose run, for example, and they would try and guess the letters. And each time that they get a letter wrong, you take the star away, and then obviously you would type in as they get the correct letter. I think one of the favourite ones, and it's probably for experienced volunteers here, will probably say that they all love Word World, where they get to spin the wheel and guess the letters. So we have a few games of that in between our stories. But as we know, children do like a bit of routine, but obviously it's try and mix it up as well. So yeah, they do love that. And again, at the end of the stories, you've got your stickers that you can use. My child's already decided that she loves the unicorn sticker. So, you know, they do really respond really well to the praise and things. There's also the whiteboard function as well. And, you know, it might look a bit plain, but it's really fun sort of thing you can do with your child at the end, maybe for the last 5 minutes. Maybe you can make up a story together, and you could say a sentence each. So you could have once upon a time, and then you can send that, you can move it around the screen, and they could say the next part, and you can spend a good 5 minutes making up a story together. So yeah, I think that's sort of the main sort of practice sort of session there. When you I will point out as well, up here you have got the help options as how to get involved, how to get in touch for support as well, so if you need to. And then yeah, you'd end the practice session up there. So I don't know if there's any questions on sort of the actual using of the platform and the reading part of it.
Yes, so we have Jennifer, would you like to ask your question quickly and unmute yourself? Otherwise,
yeah, I was just asking the session notes, do you type those as you go, or do you still have access to this to type them after the session? Because obviously there's a timetable when another tutor might be waiting.
I'll take that one, Becky.
sure.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, my little view of people is frozen. Just to say, Jennifer, it's a great question. You do have to keep your notes within the session, I'm afraid. So there's not a way to complete those outside of the session time. So, you know, if you say goodbye to your child and take a couple of moments to do notes before you press the end button, that's what we recommend. You are able to see the notes at times where you're not doing the session, but you do need to write them during the session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Eve. In fact, Eve has just corrected me there, which is interesting, to say that she has been able to create a session note afterwards. So if you know that it may be that Eve's yeah, I think if this is the same, yeah, other people are saying you can write your session notes after the session. So that's perfect. So forgive me, that was an incorrect piece of information. That it was a development request that we made over the summer that must have actually been actioned. So if you are needing to write your session notes after the session, then you can close down the session and do that. So that's great news. Are there any more questions, Becky?
Oh, Becky, you're on mute.
Apologies. There was a question from Joanne. Joanne, would you like to ask it yourself, or I'll go for it? Okay, so Joanne was asking, will the child be new to TutorMate, so the tutor and student are both starting from fresh?
I think in most cases, some children will be and some children won't be. In most cases, you are starting that journey together, unless that child also had support in the Year 1 classroom and has moved up to the Year 2 classroom. So, but in most cases, they're probably new children. So it's quite a nice journey to start together. But some children do stay on the programme. So if I, oh, sorry, Becky.
Yeah, one's just popped up from Philippa. Philippa, would you like to ask it? So for the sake of time, I'll plough in. So can we put the child onto the next level, or should we liaise with the teacher first before doing so?
Yes, it's fine to move the child up a level, but maybe see how they're getting on that level. I've moved my child up on the flashcard level, but not yet on the story level. And of course, you can liaise with the teacher as well.
And Jennifer's just checking, are the stickers available for all activities?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. And what do you do? Sorry, I'm just going ahead. Mona, would you like to ask the question?
No, that's fine. You can carry on.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, thanks, Mona. What do you do if the teacher has the child at the top level already? Where do you go from there?
I would say most of our children are further down the levels. Is that right, Emma? Before they got up to the top level. So yeah, I think
yes, most of children are down.
Very much lower down.
There are some children who do make amazing progress, or that the teacher has enrolled in the programme towards the higher levels because they feel that there are just some issues to do with confidence and fluency and comprehension that they'd really benefit from working with a volunteer on. So, you know, explore all the stories at the top levels at turquoise and purple. Do some of the extension activities that Anna's talked about in terms of talking about the book and what the book makes the children feel. Use things like the whiteboard to create stories together and to devise complex sentences. Maybe you could even, you know, continue a story from where you've been and, you know, go on to you know, have a sequel. So try all those kinds of things. And if you get to the point where you're feeling that, you know, a child is really very good and is not finding the sessions in any way a challenge, then do please be in touch with the teacher and let them know that. And there may be things that we can do to support you and potentially find another child for you. But in a lot of situations, you'll be able to do quite a lot of extension activities, even with a child who's reading on the higher levels.
Great, thank you.
So if I just end this practice tutor session there and just quickly run through a few of the extra bits on this side of the platform. As we mentioned, you've got messaging here. So if you need to create a new message, you can send it to the teacher, and you can also, or if you just want to send, as Emma said earlier, to our tutor, our UK support team, you can also send them from this messaging platform here. The meetings, hopefully some of you will have already had invitations to meets and greets over the next couple of months, and that's just an opportunity to meet your student. The program manager will be there, the teacher will be there, and they'll do like a nice introduction, maybe share a story, just half an hour, and you'll get a message through the platform if that's been able to be facilitated. And if you can click that you're able to come, that's obviously lovely. So please, if you can, RSVP. And then when the time comes, you'll just need to go through the link, click on the view to get to the link of the Zoom platform. In the profile part of the platform, it's got your information, it's also got your pupil information, you know, they've got gender in there, the classroom, and then you've also got your profile information in there as well. And then just to touch on at the end, the knowledge base, which has got your 2 training sessions that you did earlier on in the year. It's also got snippets of those training sessions. So if you want to go back and have a look at how to any of the how-to things, how to access support, how to use the notes, how to provide feedback, child safeguarding, it's all got little snippets. There's also a list of downloadable resources as well. And if you need to, there is an FAQ, so you can type in password and you know, and all the hits will come up to help you with that. And then just to touch on to the just at the end, just to touch on to our feedback form, which, you know, we would love you to be able to fill in at the end. Obviously, please report if you've had any issues. Please tick whether you've had a good session today. If there's any additional feedback for the TutorMate support team, so that's not seen by teachers. And then if you need to message, if you'd like to message your teacher as well. So we really, really encourage you to fill out the feedback support. So I'm hoping that I've run a little bit over, so I hope that's okay. But please let us know if there's any more questions, or if there's any sort of experienced volunteers that like to share some of their experiences of using the platform.
Hi, Anna. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello. It's just one question that come up. I had the same thought. When do we get access to the platform?
As soon as your DBS is through,
yeah,
you should have access to the platform.
Yeah, I've had my DBS, but I have had emails saying there's nothing till after Christmas. So.
As in, you haven't been matched with your child, or you haven't got access?
Yeah.
Can I ask, Joanne, whether you're are you supporting a child from Scotland?
Yeah.
Those volunteers who are on the call who are going to be supporting Scottish children, as you're you might have had some internal communication, and definitely you've heard from us, there are unfortunately some delays which are very unluckily down to big IT projects that are going on at Glasgow and Edinburgh councils, which we have sadly no influence over, and have prevented us from starting as early as we want to. So in terms of those volunteers who are very, very patiently waiting to be matched with a Scottish child, we're going to be doing that for you as soon as we possibly can. And once you have your child assignment, you can then do all the things that Anna shared with today in terms of booking in your session and being able to, to practice. You should be able, once your DBS is cleared, to be able to have access to our knowledge base. You should be able to see that so that you can have a look in the practice modules. You should be able to access all of those things, but what you're not able to do obviously is to book in a session and work with a child until you've been assigned one. So sorry about that, Joanne, and indeed anyone else who's waiting for Scotland. We're doing everything we can to make that move as fast as it feels a little bit like pushing water uphill with Glasgow and Edinburgh councils, I have to say, but we're doing our best. Becky, are there additional questions?
I was just going to say, I can't see any additional questions, but please someone correct me if I'm wrong by just unmuting yourself and asking it. I can't see any, but we have got quite a few shout outs for the chat support team, which is lovely to hear. So thank you very much. We will most certainly pass that on to the chat team, the support team. So does anyone else have any extra questions, last minute questions?
Or indeed, as Anna said, anyone who you know, would like to just share because they've done this already a few times, they've broken the ice, they've used the platform, and there's something that they'd like to share with others. I know that we had some feedback from last week's session that it would have been nice for people to have an opportunity to, you know, use their voice, talk in these sessions a little bit more, so you're not just hearing from us. So if anyone does feel like they'd like to unmute themselves and share, now's the moment.
Yes, I'd just like to say I did have some technical issues and also a reluctant reader. So now that the technical issues have cleared up, the sessions are going a lot better, and I've got a more engaged pupil. So yeah, so I was struggling initially, but yeah, everything seems to be on the up now, and it's really satisfying. So yeah, it's been a really good experience so far.
Thank you, Philippa. That's really nice to hear.
And there will be a session on reluctant readers and how to engage with them coming up soon as well. So you might find that helpful to join.
Yeah, so I think we're coming up to 9:40, aren't we now? And out of respect to everyone's time, we will draw things to a close. Thank you very much for your positive feedback in the chat about today. We are, you know, this is only our second of these kinds of sessions, so we're learning all the time, and it's really great to have your thoughts and comments about what we've done well and what we haven't, you know, what we could improve. So thank you for that. As Becky said, we've got some other sessions upcoming. We will be sending out an email, probably not immediately, over the next few days, within the next week, which will give you a recording of today's sessions, not so relevant for those of you here, but for anyone who missed it, a reminder about sessions that are upcoming and the dates so that you can book into those. And any other additional resources that you might find useful in that email. So watch out for that. Encourage other people in the businesses that are in the teams that you might know who are supporting children to join these sessions if they might find them useful. Phonics Deep Dive is on the 14th of December. The reluctant readers, I think we've got for the 9th of January, and then a session on the 11th of January is more about challenging confident readers. So to the person who asked the question about what do you do when you get to purple, we'll have a little bit more content in that session, which will hopefully inspire you. But thank you all very much for volunteering. Thank you for joining us today. And we hope you all have a very nice Tuesday. Thank you, Anna, as well.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.